Hi guys, this is day 25, Fear Not. So today we're going to be looking at 1 Samuel 22-23. Um, this is about David on the run, uh, and he has troubles abounding him, and he seeks refuge to get things straight, to get things put back together in his life in direction with God, um, at a cave called Adullam, which is within. He could see the place where probably he could see the place where he had killed the giant Goliath earlier, and much had happened in his life, which we don't have time to go over now. But he was on the run. In verse 3 of 1 Samuel 22, it says, "He needed until I know what God will do for me." So it's okay to hide in a cave every once in a while until you know what God's will is for you and what you need to do next. But I'm going to read 1 Samuel 22-23. It says, "Stay with me and do not be afraid, for one who seeks my life seeks your life. You will be safe with me." This is an instance in 1 Samuel 22-23 that what David was talking to the son of the high priest, Abiathar. And Abiathar had just seen his whole household, the household of the priests, slain violently by Edom. And he was on the run and to warn David and to seek a place. It was very common for people that were having troubles, that needed to sort things out, that needed a place to breathe and hide, to come to this place. And word got out that David was there and David would help rebuild their lives. So those who were in distress or discontent, or in terrible financial troubles or whatnot, they would go there and just until they could figure out what God's will was for them and to sort things out. A refuge. Well, Psalms 142 was probably written in this cave, as well as Psalms 57, and it it's thought that this son of the high priest, that David allowed to be with him in his group of refugees, helped him a lot to learn to write lyrically, and probably were very influential in this. Psalm 142, verse 2 says, "I tell my trouble before the Lord. When my spirit is faint, you know the way. They've set traps for me and they do not take notice of me." I think we've all felt that way, and there's a place where you feel there's no hiding place or no one cares, or some of the language that was used in that Psalm 142. Psalms 57 speaks to the conversion in David's heart, and maybe the foundation of this group of people that kept coming to the cave, and they were helping each other, until, as verse 3 says in 1 Samuel 22, "Until I know what God's will do for me." So verse 1 speaks to David's humble heart, broken heart, and that is, "Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me, for in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I will take refuge." And again, continuing in Psalms 57, verse 2, talks about David's prayerful heart that's being developed. In verse 2, it says, "I cry to the God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me." In verse 3, it speaks to David's acknowledging heart, and it says, "He will send from heaven and save me. He will put to shame those who trample on me." And verse 4 shows the heart that's developing trust in God, and that is, "I lie down among lions that greedily devour human prey. Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongues sharp swords." The kind of trust that would be needed to be able to lie down with lions. So what's interesting is it's okay to be in a cave until you figure out what God's will is for you, a place of refuge to take a breath. know that God works with people that are in caves. He worked with David while he was still in that cave of hiding. David there became a captain of the distressed, a general to the discontent. He was kind of like the king of the troubled. About 400 men gathered and were changed by him. People that were in derision, they were on the run. They were unsure about what God's will was for their life. They were troubled and discontent. They were financially in trouble. They had issues. Very troubled people. But David, with God's help, in that cave of Adullam, turned this into the seeds of an army that became described in 1 Chronicles 12:8 as mighty men of valor. It says in 1 Chronicles 12:8, David at the stronghold in the wilderness, mighty and experienced warriors, expert with shield and spear, whose faces were like the faces of lions and swift as gazelles on the mountains. That's what these people left when they left the cave had become. And that's not what they were like when they got to the cave. And they found God's will for their life in supporting David. And this is the basis of a likeness of the kingdom to come, which is really exciting. So once again, this was kind of a long one, but maybe you can relate that you feel like you need a place just to take a breath and find God's will for you. And that's what 1 Samuel 22:3 says. And then while you're in that cave, you might find some people that you could say the same thing, like David said to Abiathar as he just went through crisis. David said, "Stay with me and do not be afraid, for no one who seeks my life. For the one who seeks my life seeks your life. You will be safe with me." So here again, David is saying, do not be afraid. For the one who seeks my life seeks your life. You will be safe with me. Take time in the cave, if that's where you are, to figure out what God's will is and become one of his mighty men of valor. So that was day 25.